All right, yes. So today we're going to touch briefly on Fabric. What is Microsoft Fabric? What are the functionalities of Microsoft Fabric? Where did it come from? And then we'll dive into the various copilots that are layered into Microsoft Fabric, which maybe are copilots that you haven't heard of yet in the Microsoft world. So again, agenda, what is Microsoft Fabric, the various components, some requirements and limitations with respect to copilots. Then we're going to dive into Copilot for Power BI, Copilot for Data Factory, Copilot for Data Science and Engineering, and Copilot for Real-Time Intelligence. Now, most of these are either just released in general availability, like Copilot for Power BI, and pretty much the rest of them are coming out in the next couple of months, next couple of quarters. And I do have some timelines from Microsoft's roadmap of when these things will be landing, and I have a little brief description of them. I will, if assuming time is okay, I will dive into a demo of Copilot for Power BI. So, what is Microsoft Fabric? Microsoft has had a large set of data tools over the last 7 to 10 years. Things like Power BI, Data Factory, which allows you to retrieve data from various sources and move it, basically a data movement platform, an ETL platform. They had Azure Synapse, which was data warehousing plus Data Factory tied into one. And they've started to now, or they've now consolidated all of these various data tools into Microsoft Fabric. So it's a unified platform. There's a nice single licensing requirement because in the past you had to license Data Factory and Synapse, and Power BI still has some licensing outside of Fabric depending on your use case, but they're trying to tie everything back into a single license. It simplifies your analytics workload by providing that ease of data movement, processing, ingestion, transformation. It provides it all under one under one roof to make it easier. And they're putting in low code, no code options into each of these sections to allow what you would often call citizen data engineers or citizen data workers. So people that aren't specialized in engineering or data science to work in this system. And again, what we're going to touch on today a lot is that a lot of these capabilities are now being powered by AI, again, making them accessible to a larger range of users. Any questions at a very high level about Microsoft Fabric before I dive into the various components? So the Fabric ecosystem, these are the various components of Microsoft Fabric. Everything is built off of OneLake. For those that don't know, OneLake is Microsoft's new implementation of a data lake, and they are looking at this as a way to consolidate for clients that have many data lakes, consolidate the data at least into one data lake, OneLake. And all of these functionalities, including data warehousing, data factory, data lake housing, data science, Power BI, the underlying data engine for all of these services now is OneLake. And they're adding in additional capabilities to allow you to sync OneLake to your local machine to do work and other things as if it's going to be a OneDrive for your data system almost. Then you've got these various components across the top. You've got Data Factory, again, data flow. That's the low code, no code ability to move data from one location to another. So connect into SAP, connect into Salesforce, connect into a SQL database, and land the data into a data warehouse, data lakehouse. Pipelines, a little more coding and a little more functionality. Same idea, moving data from one spot to another. You have your data warehousing, which in this case consists of data lakehousing and warehousing. Inside of that, you've got things like shortcuts, which allow you to do things like, instead of actually needing to bring the data directly into Fabric, you can shortcut to things like Dynamics CRM, D365 CRM, XRM, to be able to read the data out of there without actually needing to move it. Same if you have any data in an Azure Data Lake, in an Amazon S3 bucket, you can just point it there. You don't actually need to move the data over. which makes migration patterns nice. Another thing that's coming down the pipe, it's already here a little bit, but it's getting expanded, is fabric mirroring, which will allow you to take real-time data from your SQL relational database systems and other systems and land it directly into data lakehouse, data warehouse. Microsoft is committed to pay for the compute and the storage for doing that. Their goal here is to help you get all your data into a single location. And I'm very excited about them opening that up to things like on-premise SQL servers to be able to just mirror that whole thing in real time to a lakehouse. Real-time hub and analytics. So this is if you have IoT data, if you have other streaming data, firewall logs, other things like that, time sequential data, you can land that into a real-time database and perform analytics and reporting on top of that now. Power BI, it's been around for quite a while, so I won't go too deep into that. Reporting and visualization. Data Activator, which isn't on this little nice graph over here, or picture over here. Data Activator is actually allowing you to set rules and take actions on those rules. So say I have a metric that I like to keep an eye on, and if that metric goes outside of a certain range that I specify, I can either alert myself through Outlook, through a team. I could alert a team through a Teams chat. I can actually take other actions as well if I need to. And then there's a whole bunch of governance tools. Some of them are out already. Some of them are coming down the pipe. Usage and adoption of Microsoft Fabric. Purview Hub allows you to do sensitive data tracking, data loss prevention, things like that. Capacity metrics lets you see, hey, do I have enough capacity for my licensing to do all of this stuff? Or do I need more or less capacity? And then deployment pipelines, this allows you to move your reports, your data flows, your pipelines, your lakehouses, your warehouses, all this stuff from a development environment to a staging environment to a production environment or whatever environment setup you choose for your application lifecycle management. So that was a lot. Any questions about Fabric before I dive into the Copilot side of this? And I'll let people take a minute to think before I dive in. We're all okay? Cool. Okay. So there are some, I said before, Fabric has its licensing set up. You buy a single capacity, you get to use everything in Fabric, with the exception of Copilots. The Copilots for Fabric, you need to be on what they call the F64 SKU or higher to use these Copilots. And if any of you are using a Fabric trial right now, these Copilots are not available on the trial. You've got to go and actually pay for the Fabric F64 or higher license. A couple other things to take into account when you're using Copilots, and this probably extends to any Copilot you're talking about, whether it's Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Power BI, definitely. You need to be reviewing the Copilot outputs. Make sure that they're accurate. Make sure that they're appropriate. These systems, especially now, they make mistakes still, so you got to be careful there. With respect to data specifically, people qualified to assess accuracy should perform these evaluations. So people that understand what the data is and what the data should look like, they should be the ones helping evaluate and making sure that Copilot's not making mistakes here. Last one, Copilot's optimized for English. You get varying performance in other languages, especially with Copilot for Power BI right now. I also have a link to this blog article here that I wrote like a month ago or so. These paid SKUs that we're talking about, F64, this is expensive. F64 with a yearly commit, a yearly reservation, is 7,600 Canadian per month. So it's pretty expensive. Without a commit, it's like 11,000 something per month. So again, this stuff is really expensive. So I put a blog article together that gives you a method of turning on Copilot, turning on F64 for set periods of time, allowing you to run Copilot without breaking the bank, basically. So what I've done for this presentation here is I've run this little PowerShell script that says, hey, and I kicked this off about 20 minutes, maybe about 10, 15 minutes ago. And I said, hey, I want my Power BI Copilot or my Fabric F64 SKU. I want it to run for 45 minutes. And I knew that was going to take me through to the end of this presentation so I can do a demo here. And my total cost for this demo, that 45 minutes, will probably be about $15, $16. Not too bad to be able to run this thing for 45 minutes. But again, you got to be careful there. Any questions about the requirements, limitations? I'm going to flip over here. I think we're looking pretty good right now. Cool. Okay. Copilot in Fabric. Copilot for Power BI public preview was Q1 2024. I believe as of a few days ago, we now are in general availability for Copilot for Power BI. I've pumped in a bunch of features here, things that Copilot for Power BI can do. A couple of these are still coming down the pipe. Being able to, it can write some DAX, but they're improving that write DAX functionality. The ask questions about data, that actually just landed a couple days ago, and I will try and show some of that today. You can summarize the model, suggest content for a report, create a report page. Here's a link to some prompts that will help you create report pages. You can summarize a report. You can drive synonyms. So there's a Q&A functionality, and you can get Copilot to write the synonyms for your Q&A to make that Q&A functionality in Power BI even better. Now, last thing I'll say about Copilot for Power BI, a clean semantic model, so a clean data set is needed to make sure this is running well. And Microsoft does have some guidance here on how to build your data model to work well with Copilot. I think I'll get Catherine or Betty to send along all of these links at the close of this, or I'll do it. And I think we're going to have time. So I am going to demo Copilot for Power BI. But before I do that, I'm just going to jump through the other Copilots very briefly that are coming down the pipe. So Copilot for Data Factory. We talked about Data Factory before. This allows you to do data flow, create data flows, low code, no code, create data pipelines. Again, this is really moving data from your source systems to a central system. Q3 2024, that's what Microsoft's Fabric roadmap says. They're going to layer in Copilot such that you can say, hey, this is what I need to do. I need to move data from this system to this system, and it's going to start generating those pipelines or those data flows for you. Or I need to transform my data in this way, and it's going to help do that. I need to understand what this existing data flow is doing. It's going to tell you what it's doing.
Scott,
Yes.
Adrian has his hand up.
Cool.
Do you have a question, Adrian?
I do, yeah. Back in the previous slide, we were talking about Copilot for Power BI and said that it can summarize a report. Is that summarizing quantitative information, or is that also summarizing narratives?
It provides, I'll show you some when I go and summarize a data model. You'll see what it looks like. It's basically giving you a textual explanation of what, either from the data perspective, what this data is. And then it gives you a little bit of, hey, by the way, if you're interested in analyzing this data, this is some stuff you can do given the data you have. Summarizing a report is actually taking in a pre-existing report and saying, hey, here's what these visuals in this report are showing you.
Okay.
Yeah. No worries. And yeah, I will dive through at least some of those functions in a minute or two. Any other questions on anything I've talked about so far? I'll keep going. So Copilot for data science and data engineering, there's a concept in Fabric called notebooks. These are very common in the Python world. Anyone that's used Databricks, there's a number of other services in Azure Notebooks, Google Cloud, AWS, they all have their notebook implementation. So Copilot for these notebooks is really going to be things like, hey, we're going to help you code complete. We're going to allow you to write a comment of what you want to do, and it's going to then build that code for you. So, okay, load data from this table, and it'll come up with the code. You can insert it into the notebook and run. You can also start layering in machine learning algorithms and saying, hey, I need to predict this data using these fields. So here are the fields that I want to use. I want to predict what this field will be if these look like this, and it'll start generating that machine learning code for you. And again, in notebooks, you can use notebooks to also, outside of Data Factory, you can use these to extract data from various systems. There's lots of software as a service systems out there that you might use that have Python modules, and you can import those Python modules and extract data. And again, Copilot will help you build the code to extract data from those pipelines, or sorry, from those software as a service systems using those Python libraries. Any questions about, and yeah, sorry, the release timeline for this is Q3, Q4, 2024, depending on which aspects of this, because there's a lot coming out for this. Any questions on this one? Copilot for real-time intelligence. Again, the real-time intelligence side of this is we're taking data from IoT devices, we're taking data from firewall logs, we're taking data from other monitoring systems or other things that have time series data, and landing it in real time into a database, what they call a real-time database, a KQL database, that then allows you to process and query this data in real time. And again, very similar to the other Copilots, you can talk to this Copilot in natural language, and it will then go and investigate your data. It'll go and make suggestions on what you need to do. It can convert. If you don't know how to write in KQL, custom query language, it'll take your English and convert it into KQL for you. So it makes it faster for developers, makes it easier for non-developers to work with these real-time data streams. Cool. That's the presentation. I'm going to now jump over to Power BI to show off Power BI Copilot. For now, I've just imported Microsoft's sample financials data set. It's really a sales data set. And we will Copilot go in here. And so you open up Copilot. Again, the reason I can use Copilot in Power BI Desktop right now is that I have an F64 SKU running in the background. This is my F64 SKU. It's connected to a Power BI workspace. My Power BI Desktop is connected to that workspace, which allows me to do this. And I can start. They've got a prompt guide down here. They've got some basic suggestions up here. I'm going to start with the prompt guide though, and I'm going to say that question like about the data model. What's in my data? And pretty quickly it comes back and says, hey, you've got comprehensive view of your company's financial performance. Here's the segments. Here's the details that it includes. And here's some applications you could use on this data. Here's some things you could do with this data. And then I can say, hey, you know what? How about you just suggest me some content for this report? And it says, hey, yeah, here's a suggested outline for your report. Maybe a sales performance analysis page, maybe a profitability assessment, discount impact study, sales trend over time. Let's say, sure, like sales performance analysis. That sounds good. How about you create a page for me? And it takes that prompt that it's developed there, plugs it in here as if I just typed in that prompt. And now it's going to go and generate that page for me. And now it's gone and created this sales performance analysis for us. And let's see, let's try another thing to give me an executive summary of this page. So it's now going to go back and look at the page it created and give me a summary of what this page is trying to do or what this page is trying to show. And I can think visual to the page. I think this will work. And I won't do that right now. Suggest content for this page. Just coming back and suggesting that for the report. And yeah, same thing. You can go in, add other things. You can actually change this prompt before it goes. Create a narrative summary. Let it do its thing. So while that's doing its thing, if anyone wants to ask questions about anything Fabric, anything Copilot Fabric, I do only have a couple minutes and then I gotta run and grab 2 kids from school.
I do have a question. So when I'm in Power BI and I go to click on the Copilot button, nothing happens. Is that because I'm missing a certain license?
Yes. So if we go into options and settings, Copilot, you need to go to, so you'll need, I would typically say, get the latest version of Power BI, make sure you're running that. Then go in here, select a workspace. Now, when you select a workspace, only workspaces that are tied to, and I have to bring it up here, my workspace, not my workspace. It is this Dev PBI Copilot workspace. And so, a couple things. One, again, you need to have that F64 SKU, and it needs to be tied to your workspace. So I've got an F64 SKU here in Azure. I just create it like any other Azure resource. Have that F64 SKU. Then I have to create a workspace and assign it that F64 SKU. So fabric capacity, pick the capacity that I want, select license. Then in Power BI Desktop, into settings, Copilot, select a workspace, pick that workspace that I assign my F64 to, hit OK. Once all that is in place, you can click on Copilot and it's going to start working. What's the difference with shortcuts, mirroring, direct link? Great question. Shortcuts, they allow you to connect to, there's a couple services that you can connect to, including D365, including any Amazon S3 compatible bucket. So that's Amazon S3 in Amazon itself, or in AWS itself, or a lot of other services have Amazon S3 compatible, AWS S3 compatible buckets. They allow you to connect to that data without actually needing to move it into Fabric. So the shortcut is, you can think of it like a shortcut on your desktop. You can click on that shortcut on your desktop and it goes to another location on your computer and does whatever you wanted it to do, executes it, right? The shortcut allows you to access data from inside Fabric without needing to actually load that data into Fabric. Mirroring, that's bringing the data into Fabric. So you're actually copying the data now into Fabric. But what mirroring is really good at doing is real-time data loading from relational databases, which aren't something that shortcuts can do, bringing that data in real time. So say you have an Azure SQL database today, you could turn on mirroring for that Azure SQL database, and that Azure SQL database is in real time going to send every insert, update, and delete into your lakehouse. In the next 6 to 12 months, they're going to expand that out to other systems, including things like on-premise SQL servers. Direct Lake is Power BI, real-time data from the lakehouse, from OneLake. So it's the reporting engine. Instead of having to do import mode or direct query mode in Power BI, now you're getting the ability to now you get the best of both worlds. You get the speed of import mode, you get the real-time data of direct query, and it's coming direct from the lake. And that's happening because you have Power BI using OneLake as its storage engine now. Any other questions before I jump? All right,
That was
thanks,
awesome.
Evan. Cheers.